We're live. There we go. The meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Good morning, Internet. Welcome to the Cheecast, the Passover Easter edition, I suppose. What we're doing, we the heathens of the quarantine. What is everybody doing on Easter Sunday this morning, other than like that weird lady that was on the news covered in blood or something like that? And we are, yep, we're live. There we go. I know we're live because we got the echo now. All right. Echo's gone. I'm gonna post all this on Facebook and yada yada yada. But that is the quiz. This is my first question of the morning, Joe. What are people doing on Easter during quarantine?
Well, I think that most people, because of the current situation, are just kind of doing, if anything, small, intermediate family things. Trying to make the best of the situation. It's kind of nice though. Tell you this, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I have a busy schedule also. She's busy. She plays sports, and she's in the band, and does our normal day-to-day life, we don't get to spend very much time together. And I will tell you this is a blessing in disguise. We've got to spend a lot of quality time with my 6-year-old daughter who, we both live busy lives, and we got to spend a lot of time together. So I'm very thankful for that. I feel that without this opportunity to hang out with her, we would not have spent this much time together, obviously. And for very selfish reasons, I'm totally enjoying every minute of it. It's just fun. Yeah. So there's some good from this.
Yeah. That's the one thing a lot of people are talking about. Is like, oh, I actually like the people I live with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, if circumstances were different, there would be none of the fan training in the house and the slow fights and just fun that we have. That stuff, we kind of outgrew that in our relationship because of the fact that she's a young woman and she's busy and school and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm loving life right now.
There you go. Yeah, to know that camaraderie that you guys have always had is still there underneath the layer, this social contract and all that. You're still a bunch of goofballs.
Absolutely, yeah. We still gang up on mom and tease her, gang up on her brother. It's back to being comrades in arms.
Very nice, very nice. So there's like the Hatfields and McCoys in your house, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And fighting for superiority in the house.
Darwin at best here.
Sure, your wife loves that.
Yeah, she's in the other room, so.
I'm not even getting involved in your nonsense.
Oh yeah, you're better now.
Watch the back blast on here. That's funny, man. I like it. I'm glad to hear that. I know, I know your dogs have to be loving it. I know my cat loves the fact that everybody's home right now.
Oh yeah, they've never been happier. I think I'm cutting into their nap time now. They're not getting their full 20 hours a day of sleeping, but they're very exhausted.
Well, I think they'll get over it.
I think everyone is kind of, making the best of the situation and enjoying what we can. Right? Fortunately, too, where we're at, we're sort of in isolation and an island on our own, and there's not anything negative going on here other than we can't go out. So, not that bad. Things should definitely be worse.
Yeah, and it's hard to balance the idea of there's this whole global crisis going on. And meanwhile, we're talking about how good it is to hang out with the cat and get back in touch with your daughter and just sort of be together as a family. And it's weird to balance those two off. Like one of the benefits is all the money I'm saving.
Absolutely. It's funny you should say that. You don't realize how much of a consumer that I am. I mean, it's the coffee for the ride. It's just the things that are habits. Before I drive to the gym, I always get a cup of coffee. Before I drive to work in the morning, I get a cup of coffee. You're just not doing that anymore. So yeah, money is definitely being saved. And I didn't realize how many small rituals I had to just my daily life, things that I just took for granted. And it's different. Even though where you're out for a drive, what do? You normally stop and get a snack somewhere, right? Especially for my kids, that's part of the tradition of what we do. We stop and get the type of something that is not healthy for you, junk food, candy, something. And that's part of the ride. And we're just not doing that. So things are definitely different. And once again, that might be for the better.
I think so. That's really the question that I have. What happens when this is over, right? Do people just go back to the humdrum of the way things were? Or do we actually adopt some of these new habits that we create? Because this doesn't show any signs of stopping. I don't know if you've read the news, but things are only really getting worse right now. So I don't think we've hit that peak yet. So this quarantine stuff's going to go on for at least another several weeks after what we've already been told, if not several months. Um, so then what, after several months of doing this and not going out and doing all your grocery shopping and not spending a ton of money, although I have increased my online spending to some degree, but I don't spend nearly as much money buying widgets and gadgets as I do on the daily tea at Starbucks, right? Or the daily lunch here. Like you said, there's a routine. Like on this day, I'm in this part of the city, so I eat lunch here, or this,
Sure.
it's like when we're together, there's that coffee, not La Colombe, but there's another little coffee joint in Fishtown that I'll go up to and hang out there for, an hour or so before our class. Just because it's close and it's not La Colombe, so it's not completely overrun with hipsters and Fishtown upstarts.
Sure. It
And
gives you some time to unwind and prepare.
right. And I look forward to that, but I'm only there on Mondays, right? So I look forward to going there but the tea is like $3.50. If I get a sandwich, it's a $15 ordeal. And it's like, wow. Well, that's $15 a week I'm saving not going there. Not to mention the breakfast I had that morning and the inevitable dinner I'm going to have that night.
And the
So
gas money to drive around.
oh my God. I think we filled up once since this whole thing, and that's because we were low when it started.
Right.
But we had not gas at all. And driving around in a little fit, my God, that I think we're still have a full tank of about because you can't go anywhere. We walked over to Wawa. Wawa's closed. Oh yeah, that's right. So Sophia, she has to go down to work, so that takes her across town. Um, but that tells you how much I'm in the car right now, because like not at all.
Right. Right.
The other
Well,
day, I just
I think that really what will happen is things will slowly come back to normal, and people are creatures of habit, and we're going to fall back into our routine.
yeah,
Look back on this. Look back on this forced vacation with some fondness. I think it's nice to slow down. What is the saying? Slow down, smell the roses. Easier said than done. When you like to do things, I'm a busy guy. So are you. So are most of the other people out there. We spread ourselves very thin, and it's kind of refreshing. Just relax a little bit.
and it's funny that you say spreading yourself thin because you don't really notice it when you're on the run because you're just bit 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 bit, and you get these tiny little breaths, right? Like when you're on the site, you like do a project here, and then you move on to the next thing, and then you move on to the next thing, and then you move on to the next thing. Whereas when you're just in one place the whole time, you start to feel that buildup of all the tension and the stress and the because you don't get those breaks anymore. You're not like getting up and doing a different thing or moving to a different spot or a different place. You're just sitting there or just working in one thing in one area, and that built up real quick. All of a sudden, 12 o'clock on a Monday, you feel like you've put in 12 hours. Like, what
Sure.
the hell's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a big change. It really is. It's just a different feel. And yeah, but all right, that's where we're at.
Oh
And we're
yeah,
all making the best of the situation. And
there are
some might even dare say we're having a little bit of fun.
I, you know.
Because I'm really that upset.
Oh, okay, thanks. I just so I was doing a live class the other day, and this is very important to interrupt the stream. Uh, I was doing a live class Friday, my Soul Flow class, and when I went for Snake Creeps Down, I had an older pair of pants on, and I absolutely split the entire pant, like right into the crotch. And luckily, I had a white background, so when I dropped again, you couldn't tell. But I heard it when I went down. It was just like, uh-oh. I guess it's that time. So Sophia was very nice to sew it back up for me, so I didn't have to just go back on Amazon and buy another pair of pants.
Which you probably did anyway.
Yeah, no, I didn't. She was like, I'll try and fix it. And I was like, all right. She's been doing a lot of sewing. Again, with hobbies and things. She's been doing a ton of sewing, working on her craft, getting things put a skirt together in like a week and practicing on all this other stuff. And that's another part of it. Like I've gotten a lot more writing done. Uh, she's doing hobbies. We're working on all sorts of different things that we want to do. Because take out
Right.
that, like really take out that commute. That commute is huge. When you just roll out of bed and hit your computer and get to work, or you can just hit the phone and start delegating things to what needs to go where. That's a huge amount of time that you save. uh, I know you work in the city. Well, actually, you work north of the city now, right?
Right
At
now,
your one,
yeah.
and you live south of the city, so that's a lot of uh,
Yeah,
transit time.
it's a half an hour in the morning because I leave so early, and usually 40 minutes to an hour on the way home. Yeah, you gain all that time. So,
That's it. That's it.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, yeah. So it's interesting to like have all this, and then when they're like, "Oh, it's got to come to an end," it's not really how that's going to work. I don't think it's some normalcy will take back over. But I was having a conversation with the VA this last week, and it's like, well, the problem with the problem with hanging your hat on a volunteer Tai Chi program is that in a situation like this, you don't know if that teacher can come back when this is all said and done because they've had to move their operations and make all these different changes. And if those changes start to become lucrative, say your online classes start to take off and you happen to take that time slot where you were volunteering because you got to put food on the table, you're probably not going to get that instructor back. All right. And that's going to be across the board. And that was one of the things we're sort of leaning on VA about. And they absolutely understood because they have the same situation. You have people that if you furlough them, what are they supposed to do? They got to do something. And if they end up
sure.
finding a position, now you've lost that person. No fault of your own. It's just circumstances are what circumstances are. Trying to let everybody know we are streaming live here over there on the Tai Chi Fit Network. So what's one of the new things that you've been doing since you've been quarantined in the house?
I don't want to necessarily say new things, but I've gone back to doing a lot of the training that I have done and I've neglected to do since I became a school owner and got busy. I've been doing a lot of kettlebell training and Gada training and body weight, just a lot of everything. That's a big thing too. You're used to dissipating a certain amount of energy every day. With your job, you leave, you walk the site, whatever it is you do in your daily routine. And I find that if I don't move and do a lot of things, can't sleep. So I've been really doing a lot of different things. A lot of shadow boxing, a lot of Tai Chi, kettlebells, push-ups, mixing up. Yeah, just everything to keep moving, and it's fun. And before I had all this responsibility, that was just my normal day. So I feel like I'm a kid again, actually, having a lot of fun with all the things that I get to do. I know I'm not trying to make light of the situation. I know some people out there are going through some very negative things. Just trying to reflect my personal experience through this quarantine. And I'm having some fun. I'm having some fun. You normally don't get to do all these things. As we go through life. You're a young guy. You're single. You do whatever you want. You get a wife. You do a little less. You have children. You do much less. And your children start to get older, and you can start to take some of that time back. The thing is that if you don't really have a reason or a time slot to take some of those things back, you forget how fun they really were. And slowly starting to relearn some of these hobbies, and I'm like, wow, this is why I did this. This is a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like we were before we went live. I picked up. I've been really training with the bow staff and getting that up to speed. Originally, it was to put on a pretty good demonstration at World Tai Chi Day, which now we have another month before that's a thing. But yeah, to like really to not be in class all the time, to not be teaching, but to actually be training. I forgot how much fun I have doing Tai Chi. Like I enjoy teaching. It's an amazing thing. But to just sit there and train and grind it out over repetition after repetition after repetition, and like, this wasn't quite right. Let me try and fix this again, and let me reverse engineer this, and just be in that space for anywhere from an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. Man, that's amazing. It's like,
it gives you the freedom of not having only an hour window where you need to work on this particular detail, and that's only like it's a very adult way of training, which is not how I like to live my personal life. However, that's what I do. You can just make a mistake and say, you know what, this is where I'm at right now. Let's play around with this idea.
Yep, yeah. That's it. That's it.
And if you really think about the path we've taken to end up as friends, and you're my instructor, and as mutual instructors, and whatever, we got here because we like to train. We like martial arts and everything about it, and we worked really hard, and eventually we came to the epiphany, hey, I should help other people experience this, what I have experienced. And so you kind of get to relive a little bit of that excitement because you have time to train. I agree with that. Several classes a week. When I am home, there's family time and there's that stuff, so there's not extra time to do personal training, or it's very regimented, like I said, because you have to practice this. This is what my assignment for the week is, and this is what I'm going to do. I know that's not very Tai Chi-esque, but, not everyone can live that experience to the fullest. We still are who we are, right?
Always
try to. What was that?
We're always training to get there. That's the key.
Always trying. Right. But with a little bit more free time and for your schedule, you can do a lot of these things, which is really nice.
Absolutely. If we weren't doing this morning, I would be out there in the yard, just whacking the grass with the bow staff. I think it was last weekend. Shane and I were out at Glen Ford, and we were doing bow staff training out there and shooting some footage for Tai Chi Fit. But then the weekend before, I got to go into the bedroom and like, hey, I'm going to go be a nerd. She's like, you're going to go play with your stick out in the yard, aren't you? He's like, yeah.
Yes, I am. But the reality of the situation is that's how you do it. That's how you get good at things. You practice.
Yep.
And it may be nerdy. But that's what.
That's it.
That's how you have to do it. Any physical, any endeavor at all, but any physical endeavor, you have to practice.
Yep. And
these are things that have an expiration. If you don't put the work in, they slowly start to diminish. I'm coming back from a knee injury, and I'm surprised in my mind. Well, so here we go. I do a Steve Maxwell 300 kettlebell challenge, which is extremely hard. In my mind, I was like, yeah, no problem. We're going to jump in here. We're going to do it. We're going to do a record time. So I didn't get through the workout the first time, and I was really shocked. I was like, wow, I have to put some more work into this just to be able to get through this workout because I haven't done it in a while.
Yep.
And I know this, logically I know this, but, emotionally you're like, wow, I thought that I could do this. And I can now, but your work, I had to work up to it. And that goes back to the perishable skills comment. These just because you can do it once doesn't mean you can do it again. You have to, at a high level. You want to be the best you possibly be, you have to put the work in.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's the same with all this stuff. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's the fun and the deficit of it, I guess. Kind of, you think in your mind, yeah, I got this next, but that's not true.
No.
You have to continue to work all the time.
That is like, man, I was reading a lot about that recently, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like if you get something right the first time, you just assume you know it all, or you learn one little facet of whatever it is, and you just think you're an expert about it. Nah, wash my hands and know all I need to know about this subject. And you're absolutely right. You have to resist that voice in your head and like, no, keep walking, because you'll quickly find out how little you know about the situation, and that confidence will drop dramatically until you really put the time in to swing your expertise back up on the other side. I don't know anybody in any discipline who isn't like, I was when we went to Rutgers last year for their writers conference. I got a chance to meet Neil Gaiman. And he was saying that he went to this conference and he's sitting next to some dude and he's looking around, and there's all these Nobel Prize winners and Nobel laureates and these great yada yadas that are all walking around. And he's thinking to himself, like, wow, and this is Neil Gaiman, right? Like all the great comics, all the great shows, all the great novels that he's put out. And he's like, I don't, is a guy who puts words on page, I don't really necessarily belong here. And the guy that is sitting next to him, he says, I'm looking around and I'm thinking the same thing. All I did was I went where they told me to go. I picked up some stuff and I brought it back. He's looking at the guy like, I think you did a little more than that. Turns out the guy is Neil Armstrong. Right? Thought was, I just got on the thing, I went to the place, I picked up some stuff and I brought it back. Okay. Meanwhile, you're the first guy to walk on the moon. So that moment, you really think you've crescendoed, and actually we were talking about a few people that thought they've crescendoed before we went on live stream. But the moment you think you're there, you're not there. You've fooled yourself.
You're basically at the threshold.
Yeah.
Got to the door. Now you walk in, you're like, wow. There's things I don't know.
Oh my God! Yeah, I always assume I just don't know stuff.
You kind of have to, right?
I'm always pleasantly shocked when I know the answers to the questions. And granted, as you know,
this happened to me sometimes. Sometimes I think I know the answer. I'm all proud of myself. I'm like, wow, I got this next, and I hear the answer. I'm like, way off. Yeah, I was not even in the right ballpark there. Wow.
And at what point does that change, right? At what point do you? Well, there is no singular point. It's an evolution. It's a gradation of growth, right? Like there's no point where the tree becomes an adult tree. It just keeps growing, and at one point it's not an adult tree, and at one point it is an adult tree. It's just
bigger than some other trees, I guess.
Pretty much, But that's all. Like I think about, like, it's been, oh man, the last time I picked up a bow staff, that was in the Army, right? So that was a long time ago at this point, and so I was a little clumsy with it. Like I remember how certain things worked, but the muscle memory wasn't quite there yet. And as you know, the Chinese styles of the bow staff are way different than the Korean and Japanese styles of the bow staff. So getting used to a new system of movement and control of the staff took some work. And there are still basic drills that I'm clumsy with because I'm just not used to that style of movement. But stuff that I am used to and the stuff that I practice the most, it's good. I was like,
well, I mean, but all the things you just said, let's be realistic, that's the fun of learning something different. It's taking you out of your comfort zone, if you will, and just putting yourself out there. I'm like, wow, maybe I'm not an expert in this, and that you want to learn something. That's really what everything is about. It's a continuum of martial arts in general. It's a continuum of growth and knowledge. You just continue to be that guy. You want to learn more stuff and continue to advance.
Sure. Yeah, you don't become like you. Excuse me. You don't say when you're that guy or that gal or that person,
No, you
right?
can't. You never can.
A guru. You just don't. Other people give you that title. Other people come to you,
Sure.
and
And typically, those titles they're like lifetime achievement awards
really,
that some old men that sit on a council decide, wow, you have dedicated your life to this, and we're going to do it. We're going to give you this title. It's not a self-proclaimed thing. I would love to say it was. It would be nice to be able to do that, but it would take away the value in the title.
absolutely.
It's very common in our Western society. Give me, more, more. I'm good. I got that.
Yeah.
And we have to sit back and appreciate people who have earned titles like that, because it really is like a lifetime achievement award. Yeah.
There was not in the army. One of the things, and this goes in the professional world as well. And you are that long before you're given the title of that. Like when you ascend to whatever rank, everyone just assumed you were always that. You were already there because you've been fulfilling that role so long. You know, if you're putting out good content and you're training a lot of students, you have a great reputation. By the time you get a title of grandmaster or sensei or shihan or something of that nature, well, everyone just assumed they're more surprised that you didn't already have it versus, oh wow, why'd that guy get it? Or why'd that person? That
Absolutely.
person.
Yeah, that is very accurate. There's never, you look at it, never have I ever looked at someone with the title guru, Hanja Nim, anything like that. Been like, that guy? Really? You're like, man, that guy. I want to eat that. Yeah, it's not like getting a rudimental belt or something early on in your career, and you're like, he didn't really deserve that yet. Not at all. It's something like, wow, this guy, yeah, that's what happens.
Well, that
But it's time.
it's funny you say that because I think a lot of the pretender is one that's just sort of like a natural human state. But I don't know if you remember being a kid in karate or jujitsu or in sort of the dojos of the day back then, and basically to get a stripe on your belt or to get to the test really was just a matter of how many classes you took. It wasn't how good you were or how proficient you were. And really all that is just the carrot and stick, just to keep you coming so you can keep uh, growing up the ranks. It's no different than like a game app today where, oh, if you just keep swiping, you'll get this achievement, which keeps you on the dole and keeps you seeing the advertisements and all that kind of thing. So if you can progress quickly through the ranks, you'll keep renewing your tuition and because you feel like you're getting somewhere. What I love about Tai Chi is that you are the body of work. I mean, you can go to schools and they have ranks and sashes and all that kind of thing, but you really are your body of work. Either you know it or you don't. There's no little certificate. You can have a certificate for how many hours you've put in because there should be some amount of proficiency at a certain number of hours. But at the end of the day, it really is, can you go out there and do the form? Do you know the principles? Do you embody Tai Chi as a lifestyle? Because if you're going to be, Lao Tzu, you better sound like Lao Tzu when it's all said.
I agree with that. So one of the things that we spoke about earlier before we got on this cast here is putting yourself out there first, humility. Because when you're a young guy, you start martial arts, or we were young guys, you start martial arts. One of the first lessons was humility. Don't tell people you train. Don't go on the street and try to do this stuff. And anyway, fast forward 31 years later, those lessons are sort of how I live my life, within reason. Okay? And humility is a big part. And bragging and boasting about oneself is is frowned upon in my personal ethical code. However, if people don't know who you are and what you do, they're just never going to know. They're never going to come and be your student, so on and so forth. But one of the things that I've always said, and I really like to say this, is when I have a potential client, student, whatever, and we can talk names of fancy martial arts and talk about concepts and technique and all that stuff. Oh, great. They're all words. What I say to a potential client is, please come in and see me move.
Sure.
There's no question. You either like who I am or you don't, but there's no question, because exactly what you just said is very true. Tai Chi is, if you can't do it, it's obvious. Yeah. I could tell you all day, I'm awesome. But you're my instructor. You know that's not true. Right? But I do try hard. I do try hard. I have that going for me.
You are a hard. Yeah, you are a very hard worker.
I have that going for me. But with that being said, it's cool, but you can't hide it. And I love things that are tangible, measurable. You can prove, right? Just like mathematics, right? Mathematics you can prove. You can't. Numbers are right there. Yeah. If they don't work out, you obviously did something wrong.
That's it.
Martial arts is very similar. There's a lot of people that make really, really wonderful exaggerations, maybe. I can do this or that. And some people can, and that is incredible when you find one of them. There's also the guys that they do things, you're like, I don't think that can work. Can you do it to me? Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. But once again, we go back to movement. Sure. If you can do it, show me. And if the person shows you, you're like, wow, that's it. So it's just cool because it's something you really can prove.
Yeah.
Being involved in anything for your whole life, you have to be kind of nerdy, right? I like to call myself a martial art nerd just because I love everything about all types of fighting systems and non-fighting systems now. But yeah, it's just fun stuff. Keeps you sharp, keeps you fresh. It's a great outlet. Daily life, and then it's like almost like cosplay. You pretend to be a hero for a couple hours. Do your moves, you're relaxed, you're back into it, and you go back into your life. And slowly but surely, these principles and ideology kind of filters into your life, and you become a better person for it.
And that's really what it's about. All martial arts at the end of the day are internal, because they all instill and then those philosophies of guys that are way older and way wiser than any of us are ever going to be. And it's that is the joy of martial arts. In fact, even when I was in the hard styles, I always enjoyed the philosophy and the history and those meditative moments where you would just sort of settle and reflect on what you just did, and then you'd get back up and start breaking bricks and stuff again. But but I always loved the katas and the choreographed movements and how you would build up this good steam of pressure and then just let it all out. And there was pageantry to it. There was this whole like rigmarole that you had to go through, and you could feel it, the momentum shifting, and bam. And honestly, that's every move in Tai Chi. When you're going through your form, you're constantly swirling back and forth from extreme yin to extreme yang, and back out again, and then coming back and reflecting, and then releasing again, and then coming back, reflecting, exploding, and then coming back. And that teaches a sense of discipline, because it's one thing, we've all been there, especially like in our youth, when we just went balls to the walls, crazy, and it was all yang. I was like, I got to go out every night. I got to do this. I got to talk to all these people. I got to work all the time. I got to get this many, this, that, and the other. And then you start to grow up and realize, no, you need a little more balance. You got to sleep. You can't do this every night. You absolutely have to sleep. And you start to find, but that's your body telling you. Within the structures of martial arts, especially in Tai Chi and the internal arts, you get to practice that coming back and forth, that wave effect of letting go and then finding the opening and going in, letting go, finding the opening and going in. And that patience, the more you practice it, like you said, the more you adopt it in your life, because you start to see that connectivity between the two.
Connectivity is exactly where I wanted to segue. not just, it's the connectivity of all the moves together.
Yep.
So once you do your one move, you're actually prepped, loaded, and prepared for your next move. Right? And because I have done other martial arts, and I like to make the connection right away. You know, when you throw your jab, your cross is loaded, you're coiled, you're ready to unload that. That's a very rudimentary example there. However, it's the same with everything. You know, every action has a consequence. We know these things. We say them as punchlines, but do we really understand how that fits into motion? And that's a really cool thing. So, yeah, your body is one unit. You use it as that unit, and there are yin and yang. Everything we do, it's the flow, it's that synergy, which is a very Eastern concept that really we don't talk about much in our Western society. And I'm going to go nerd for a minute. I know that and I don't speak for everyone, I speak for my own limited experience and knowledge of this. However, what I have experienced and learned that my arms are my arms, my legs, my core is core. And every once in a while, you might unite two of the three things I just mentioned, where maybe I swing a bat and turn my hips, or maybe I throw a punch and turn over. But we don't think about our body as one big unit and how everything works together. Once you can kind of understand that concept, you're able to move so much more efficiently with much less effort, and your next move is already there. It's ready to go. Or you don't even have to think. The next thing will just reveal itself, which is a really cool thing. And one of the things I'd like to mention right now is I have been doing martial arts for a very long time. I met Marcus about 3.5, 4 years ago. Since I've been training with Marcus, you know, throughout your career of being a martial art, you know, you excel, you plateau, excel, you plateau. And in each plateau, you think you're at the zenith of your training, you're never going to get much better. Started Tai Chi, very, very hard for me because I'm not a relaxed person. We've been working on this for a long time now. But I would say that all of my other martial arts have gotten exponentially better because I have learned how to make that connection. Now, my instructors throughout the years have always told me, Joe, relax. Joe, slow down. You're in your own way. So on and so forth. The list goes on and on. But I just didn't really understand that concept because when you're moving fast, you can hide your mistakes.
Yeah.
Moving slow, you're either balanced or you're not. Right? It might. What do you tell me? It may look like you're balanced, but if you're falling, you're clearly not. A lot of things like that. So I really like to thank you for that. And that is it's a huge I guess acceleration of what I've been doing everywhere else. We talk about this a lot between training sessions, how I incorporate this principle with this stick fighting method or with this empty hand method, which is really cool. So what I try to do is take the lessons that I learned from you and practice and infuse them immediately into the other things I do. And, you know, a typical day for me, so Monday is probably my busiest day. Get up at 4 a.m. I go to work. I work all day. I go to my gym. I have a 2-hour private lesson with you. I teach a women's self-defense course. I teach a boxing course, and then I do a Jeet Kune Do course. So usually I get home about 10 o'clock. So to maintain that level of energy and enthusiasm, you can't go 100% all the time. However, I have done this for years. But I'll tell you this, now that I am a little bit more relaxed, I get through those classes without a problem. And when I get home at 10 p.m., I still have energy because I'm used to working 100%. Now I'm working just as much, but a much more relaxed, easy pace for me. And the thing that is the most surprising about this whole thing is I'm more powerful, faster, and better than I ever was. I would say that the 20-year-old Joe versus the 43-year-old Joe, 20-year-old Joe was obviously younger, faster, probably stronger. I'd kill him right now just because of the understanding of movement and technique, and I've calmed down. I wait for it to materialize before I would go first one in, last one will look back. You know, basically all balls, no brains. And now I have at least calmed myself down to the point where I can let things materialize. Do I even need to respond to this? What is happening right here? Which is just a cool thing.
Yeah.
change some things, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's also fun to learn things. I would tell you this too about Tai Chi, which Marcus and I have talked about a lot. Every other endeavor I've done in my life, the harder you work, the better you get at it. Tai Chi is the exact opposite. The harder you work, the worse you get. Uh, it's not time, and it's not. But if you lose focus and try to beat your head against the wall, you're just not gonna. Maybe that's the end of your training for the day. You
Yeah.
have to stay at that relaxed sense and just kind of work through it, which is hard and fun at the same time.
Well, that's the key. You have to enjoy it throughout. Uh, messing around with the bow staff and adding something new, and just better cut, making things look a lot better. Um, I'm fighting the same pitfalls. I'm reminded of what it was like to be a beginner and not have that pure flow just going through it because I'm thinking a lot about it. The difference is in approaching the bow, I know that all I need to do is just have fun with it. I don't need to, I don't need to, like you said, bash my head up against the wall. What I need to do is just enjoy it. How does this work? How does this feel right? Oh, that was cool. Let me do that again. Those kinds of things make learning fun. And if it's not fun, it's you rewarding yourself at that point. Of course, you practice what you're rewarded most for. So it's self reinforcement. It's self perpetuating at that point. And it's one of the reasons I walked for like a half hour uh, to one of the parks that, of course, are closed down right now, but there's a big softball field. And I did my bow staff training there, knowing that I was going to have to walk back a half hour to get home. So whatever I was going to do, I needed to leave some gas in the tank. This is how we were going to do this. And that just sort of changed everything. Like it made what I was doing more focused, but at the same time relaxed me into knowing you don't have to put it all out on the table right now. This is just practice. You can go through hard a couple of times, but out of the 25 times you're going to practice this, only do that about 3 or 4 times. The rest of the time, just enjoy the space, understand, get to know how all this moves together, and start to merge the two ideas. It's one of the things that people don't realize with Tai Chi because they just see it as this thing that they do. Is that if you really sit down and understand it, you start to recognize how you can merge it into your actual life. You and I have talked about that, plenty of times in trainings where you've adopted an idea from Tai Chi and injected it into work and gotten a completely different result, but it was the result that you wanted, right? And sometimes it's like all that beating your head up against the wall ultimately doesn't get you where you're going any faster. You're just sort of putting miles on you that you don't necessarily need to. Uh, because
Which you could even say sometimes it impedes the progress.
it really does. You start, like you said, getting in your own way, and that's a pretty dangerous moment. It's a moment where, but if you become self-aware of it, like you were saying, when you're moving slowly, you're either balanced or you're not. So you get used to being in that space. So you'll recognize when you're not in that space. You'll recognize when you're acting a fool and you need to like take a time out and you're
Sure.
going way above and beyond what you should be doing. Nobody's
Well,
perfect.
the thing is too, though. I mean, I do find moving like that fun. I do.
Yeah.
So when I train, I allow myself a little bit of fun. So I
Yeah.
like to say, anything I do, I go soft, hard, soft.
Yeah.
And what that does is, this beginning of training, I warm up, get ready for what I'm going to be doing, and I work it, and I have fun. I'm doing that. That's the very technical part. And then I have to allow myself a little bit of fun here. So I'm going to move around like a maniac, just kind of move and flow and do all kind of cool things and kind of lose myself for a minute and that or so. And then, okay, we're good. Now let's go back to training. Right? Both are good. Both are valuable.
Yeah.
But if you do too much of one or too much of another, there's an imbalance there, right? So even when I'm doing any other type of martial art, whether I'm shadow box, doing whatever, I try to be very technical and be the best I possibly be, and then I lose, play around. And when I play around, I try to find something. What am I doing wrong? And that's kind of where I find some, like a starting point. Like, say, I don't know what I want to work on today. Now I'm going to go through one of my forms and play around with it. Like, I'm arrogant. Feels pretty good. Got that. What's next? So I do it at speed. I play around and I find myself in awkward moments. I'm like, that right there. The breath is wrong. The balance is wrong. Something's wrong. So usually it's all three of those. Usually alignment, not breathing, whatever. But that's kind of how you make something functional, right? So a lot of the martial arts that I do, and I mentioned this when I was talking to Sam on my last one, I'll never be the prettiest martial artist ever. That's just never was my intent. That's not who I am. However, anything that I have basically mastered, if you will, I can perform at speed, correctly and accurate. Mm-hmm. With that being said, my goal throughout martial arts was to be able to actually do this stuff. So I'm an 80s kid, man. I grew up watching Jean-Claude Van Damme and Kung Fu movies and all that stuff. I wanted to be that guy. That's really what got me interested in martial arts. And, when I was a kid, I was like, well, it's kind of cool. I like to do it, but it's not real because no one's really, I didn't understand the value of the concepts that were going on right then. I wanted to be able to perform all this stuff and perform at speed because a lot of guys say, oh, well, I can do it, but not against this type of fighter, not against that type of fighter, whatever the case may be. My objective in life was to be able to actually do this stuff at speed. So if someone would say, hey, can you demonstrate this? Absolutely, let's do it. And I wouldn't say, no, your hand, no, your other hand, left hand, right, whatever. Nope, I wanted to be able to do it. So I approach Tai Chi in the same fashion where I do the form, I try to learn the concept, I try to really understand the concept, though, so I can use this concept everywhere else in the other things to do. Whether it is a physical endeavor or academic or something at work or whatever. Like you had mentioned, we slowly but surely start to infuse these concepts into our daily life. And, you don't have to be the first one with the answer or the first one with the smart aleck comment, which both things I like to do. Maybe sometimes you just take a breath and see what everyone else is going to say. Maybe you don't need to say anything, which is a very adult, which took me every day of the 43 years I've been on this earth to learn. Sometimes you just need to shut your mouth.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, Tai Chi has helped me with that. I'll just breathe. Nice breath. I'm like, okay, cool. That's where we're at right now. We'll talk when you're calm.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Listen, even in regards to like the whole program and the push for Tai Chi with veterans, I have moments, and if you're watching this stream, understand like I have moments where I read your texts and your emails, and I'm like, nope, that's just going to wait because now is not the time. Because either I'm not in the mindset or this is not the place for me to be handling this right now. Because as you know, you could be going around the clock. There's always something more to do, and I'm just starting to really apply this to the professional side. But there's always something to do. There's always more work. There's always a bigger project. Balance comes from recognizing that and stepping back. I mean, like, you know what? That's going to sit right there. It may feel immediate to the person that is sending it, but the reality is it's not immediate in the grand scheme of things. And understanding that, to just relax back, make sure you're centered before you go to the next move. Make sure you're balanced, that you're breathing right before you step into what potentially could be an arduous journey or something that might result in conflict. Conflict isn't necessarily bad. Conflict sometimes is good because it exposes what you were actually looking for in the first place. But you have to know to do that. And even in conflict, you have to know, like, step back. To be like, all right, well, this is going off in a way that it shouldn't go. So we're gonna hold back here. And that gives them a chance to, like, oh, wait, let me relax here as well. If they're pulling back but not stepping away, then maybe we need to revisit this and look at it from a different perspective. And that would it only takes one person to do that. One person yields, and the other person's like, whoa, because it's just like Aikido or Judo or Tai Chi. If you're pushing against me and I just kind of let you do it, you're the one who comes off balance at that point. It has nothing to do with me. I can maintain my rooting, my grounding, despite the fact that you're pushing into me. So that 4 ounces to move 1,000 pounds of force is really what that comes down to. And so in conflict, you can do exactly that. Somebody's sort of grinding and nailing you, and you can just kind of yield and let them go. And now they have to regain their balance back, right? We see it. Funny enough, we see it with politics, and we saw it a lot this year with both Sanders and with Trump, where the media would gang up on one of them, and their approval ratings would go up because people recognize when someone's being ganged up on, and no one likes that. So even if you win that exchange, you win that battle, you may ultimately lose the war. Are you listening, Democrats? um, I try not to be political. I can't help myself. Uh, but in that, it's like when you have a student, it's a new student, you're teaching them something. You let them win the whole time. You let them get used to being used to the feeling of how the thing is supposed to work, versus just going in and whooping them the whole time. Of course, you can go in and whoop them, but they don't learn anything by doing that, right? So you yield the floor, you give them the victory in order to help them along as a student. It's
Well,
one of the
sure. I mean, if you're teaching and if you're learning and you're concerned with getting injured the whole time, you completely shut down to what the concept is. You're in self-preservation mode, where you're just covering and cowering or whatever. And what is the purpose of that, right? So you're absolutely right. It closes the person down as an individual. It closes people down as a group. You kind of and a lot of those things too. Why do you respond in the way you respond? It's because your ego gets a hold of it, right?
yeah.
You take a breath through your head. What are we talking about here now? Now everyone has an ego. Some people egos are out of control. Some people's aren't, but we're human, and ultimately, our egos do get better with some things, right? And think about any type of physical or mental altercation you've had, where what happens? The voice in your head says, "How dare you do that to me? Me." And if you could just take a breath for a second, say, "It's not that big.
Yeah.
No one cares about you." At myself, no one. It's not an attack about you. This is really an attack about them and their ego. You can just see that for a moment and just chill out. You can walk away from most of this,
Oh
right?
yeah.
On that individual level or on this higher level that we're talking about right now, right? We let our egos get out of control, right? You're not living in the moment. You're not present. You're just kind of all over the place, and you're just kind of people. I noticed this. People as a knee-jerk reaction, prove them wrong. Their knee-jerk reaction is to say no,
Yeah.
whether it's the best idea in the world or the dumbest idea in the world. No matter what it is, they're going to say no because fear sets in. Well, I'm supposed to be in control right now, and I'm not. And that was a really good idea. I should have known that. I should have. But a lot of times in a situation, right, you're looking at this whole thing. They're looking at the one, I don't know, one little dot you're showing them. So they might have a better perspective on that one detail because you're everywhere. You're just like, wow, I need you to do this, and you to do this, and this is going on at the same time. So that stepping back and listening to other people, just, maybe they have a good idea. Maybe it is a questionable idea. However, if you let go of the no in a sense, you're just like, let me hear this person out. It really changes something. And also, if someone's being aggressive, why are they being aggressive? Maybe they're having a bad day. Who knows what their situation is? We don't have to make their day worse, do we really? Right? We want to, right? The kid in us was, how dare you speak to me that way? But in reality, does it really matter? No, it doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
And all of those tools start from the breath, right? Take a deep breath, calm down, get back to being present. You're like, you know what? Everything's cool. I don't have to worry about this right now. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Have a great day. Yeah. So anyway, that's my little 2 cents on the breath today. I like to talk about that every class, every one of these we do, because I feel it's really important. I use the breath in all type of stressful situations, and it's just a great tool.
Oh, I agree. I agree. No, I listen. I've seen you, Joe, from the ball of tension that you were when we met, and you were just like the whole time, to moving like ice,
Well, we got to have goals, right?
melting ice, like no, no, no. You should be really proud of yourself. You've come so far from where we started and picked up, and it's funny because I know you say all the time when we started doing Tai Chi, you hated it, and
Absolutely did. Yeah.
I knew you were going to stick or stay when we started when we started doing our thing. But I saw the devotion and I saw how quickly you started to improve with everything and just adopt them and make it. You found the value in it, and that's something that I've been trying to impart on people. You can have all the great advice and you can have all the secrets of the universe, but if the person you're giving it to doesn't see the value in it, then they're not going to follow it. That's just how that's going to go, right? There can be value to it, right? If I were to give you a suitcase of $100 bills or a handful of diamonds, which one would you pick? Right? Like the diamonds are probably worth more money, but you can spend the dollars way faster. Like that is
Sure.
more immediate, pragmatic, and you know what to do with those. So the dollars, though they have no value really, and you would actually use them to purchase the diamonds, they don't have the diamonds don't share the same weight and value. So it's just like that good piece of advice. If they don't see the value of it, if they don't see the value in dieting, if they don't see the value in exercising or in breathing or in reading or just expanding their mind in general, then all of your advice is just going to slam up against the wall because learning starts with a question, right? If they ask you a question, as you know, if your student comes to you and they're like, "Hey, how do I do this?" You know that they're ready to learn that. You're not forcing on them. They've come and you've yielded until they come to you. Because I know I went through this, especially when I started teaching Tai Chi. I was really there just to show off. Like I was there to show everybody what I knew, look good doing it, and they would pick it up from just watching me. That was my thought. Now, no, not so much. That's why I'm doing this time to like really get into the grind and do all the fun stuff I can't do in class because the classes aren't about me. As you know, you're doing the same thing, going and having lots of fun and getting back in touch with all the things that you used to do that you haven't had time to do. And that's where that separation comes in. And if that's all you got to do, you wouldn't be very happy because
Sure.
teaching is fundamental to what you do. But at the same time, it allows you to sort of refill the well, know that you can still do those things, but know that they're not necessary in class. Right? In class, you're just having a good time and making sure everybody's safe and they're learning, but you're teaching without teaching. Right?
Yeah.
What I do is a little different. It's more traditional.
Sure.
It's reminiscent of what DDR puts me through, which is fun. But we're the big nerds. We love that stuff. So we'll do commencing form 1,000 times in an afternoon because that's what we were told to do. So that's what we're going to do it.
Absolutely. Sure. Sure. I would say the majority of things I do that I teach too, I spend the majority of my time relearning basic concepts. If you think about you're a young guy, you're going through the ranks, you learn these techniques well enough to be able to display them to your superior and do them, and that's great. That's one layer of understanding, okay? But once you start to teach this to other people, and initially my students were 20-year-old killers, and things were easy for them because that's where they were in life. They were ready to learn, and they just wanted to, and then now I have a very diverse clientele, and you're teaching someone a concept that you're like, oh yeah, you just punch whatever.
Right.
For people, for me anyway, I'm like, that's such a rudimentary skill, so basic. Everyone knows how to punch, people don't. People don't understand where to hit your hand or whatever. So I actually spend a lot of time thinking about these concepts and breaking them down in abstract ways that people can learn because they're very basic movement to me. However, not to everyone else. Right?
Sure.
And I spend the majority of my time even training because before we had this surplus of time, basically breaking things down and dissecting them and just redoing everything over and over again to make it really clear. I try to think of the questions that I would have as if you gave me a concept, talked about it for 5 minutes, walked away, said, go do it. I think about what questions I would have about that concept. And I try to find these answers ahead of time. So when they do come to me, I can say, well, I'm not sure, but this might be what you're thinking about. You're never going to have all the answers, obviously. But I just think that's a different layer or level of understanding basics. So I put a lot of thought into this. And if I had a choice between being a guru, if you will, of some exotic, really advanced martial art or being a guru of basics, I'm going to pick basics twice a week, every day and twice on Sunday, because with the basics, I can do everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just, that is just where I feel that when I'm in my 70s and I look back on my career as martial artist, I was like, hey, I'm not great at anything, but I know the basics really well.
Sure.
And I can teach anyone the basics, which is just, just where I want to be. Everyone has different goals and dreams. For me, that's where I want to be. I just want to be really good at the basics, which is way harder than you think.
Oh,
once you get into actually being a master of movement.
sure. Yeah, you spend your entire career getting the basics down. I mean, a building stands on its foundation. If the foundation is faulty or the foundation is weak, you can't build the building the way you want to. It's no different in your career, any career, right? If you want to be a writer, you have to learn how to read first. You need to know what the if you want to be a physicist, you have to know what 1 + 1 equals, and you have to
Sure.
So and if anywhere along the way you abandon your principles, if you abandon arithmetic, your your life as an astrophysicist is all over because you can't.
Absolutely.
You know. The same thing, like if you want to be a doctor, you have to know basic skills, no matter what. I mean, you could be a brain surgeon, but at the end of the day, you're still dealing with vessels and cells and neurons and all that kind of stuff. The same way you'd be doing if you were a general practitioner. So by getting better at the basics, by spending most of your time there, it makes everything else easier. All the fun show off stuff that you can do all harkens back to the basics. Because once you have those down, practicing a move is easy. Getting those basics instilled into you, that's where the work really takes place.
Sure. Yeah, and it's an ongoing process too. It's one thing that actually never happens. Never get awesome at basics. You just continue to work them and get a little bit better understanding of them.
Basics aren't pretty. They really aren't. But like if something like opening the door, commencing form, right? If you feel yourself rocking on your feet, you're already not rooted. So if you come up and you rock one way and you come down and you rock the other, and then you start to move based on that, you've already given up your root. You've abandoned that principle right out of the gate. And the principles aren't laws, right? They're not things you have to follow. They're simple if-thens. If you do this, then you'll get this result. If you don't do it, then you'll get that result. You're not wrong, or we're not going to take you out back and beat you with the sticks. It's a matter of if you are looking to achieve something, then you want to follow these guidelines. If you want to do your own thing, then do your own thing. So something as simple as being grounded and rooted in commencing form and just really settling into the heels so that the heels never leave the ground. And so learning, in doing just that, learning how your spine has to really be expanded and not just stiff, right? And how your hips have to sit in order for that to happen. And there's all these little things going off in your body, and you have to be mindful of all of them just to bring your hands up and sink back down into your heels. That is mastery. right
Sure,
there. That's
sure.
history.
And if you start to and if you start to miss your principles just in the beginning, or from one move to the next. What ends up happening is you're behind, right? You're behind with your bounds, with your Dante sections. You're just behind. So where are you rushing? Right? This is an eternal art. If you're going to rush through it and be behind and miss it, right?
Yeah.
There is no rush. Start over. Okay. Not a big deal. Or go regain your bounds. Continue. But if you're missing these points, what are you doing? Right? You don't have to rush. All the things we do in life that have to be done fast. Tai Chi is not one of them.
Yep.
Right? And in the beginning, I had a hard time with that, but now I embrace that because just chill out and do it. Just do it. If you make a mistake, you can either A, start over, or B, continue. But what do you tell me? I have to get past that mistake, not obsess over it, which is tough. Right? It's tough for everyone. However, you just move on, right? Or start over. No one's going to beat you with a stick. Well, you beat me a couple times, but that's a different conversation.
that wasn't class time, Joe, and don't tell your wife about it. Well, all right. It looks like we're at the end of our hour. We're a little long here today, but it is a holiday special, so I figured we add a couple of minutes. Tell us where we can find you, Joe, online and whatnot.
I am at phillyselfdefense.com, Joe at phillyselfdefense.com. I'm located at 1333 Front Street, Fishtown section of Philadelphia. I run all types of different classes there, so if you have any questions, please do email me or stop by. You're welcome to stop by, observe the class, and anything else. And yeah, I look forward to meeting anyone who wants to come out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go out, hang out with Joe. Joe's fantastic. I've been hanging out with him for, God, you're right, almost 4 years now.
4 years, yeah.
Which is crazy. So yeah, and you can also find him and me at Tai Chi for Veterans on Facebook, YouTube, and all that other good stuff. Just look for that, and you'll find us there. All right. Any last words, Joe, before we cut it all down?
No, thank everyone for joining us today. It was great talking with you. You guys listen to us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. All right, brother. Thank you for joining me here. Easter, Passover. Be good to yourself.